Yesterday we started with the this keyword, right? We have we have seen the overall usage of this keyword, where we can use the this keyword, right? And we started with the examples. Yes, we started looking at the cases one after another. First, we looked at how we can use the this keyword to refer to the current class instance variable and under what circumstances, right? What if, under what circumstances do we need to use it, and what if we don't use it under that circumstance, right? So here we saw that we don't have to use this keyword if the instance class instance variables and the formal arguments are different. In that case, you don't have to use, but if they are same, then there will be the case of ambiguity. So to remove ambiguity, we have to use the this keyword, okay, with the class instance variables. So this keyword is used with class instance variables, not with formal arguments, okay. It is used either with a class instance variable or with the methods of the class or with the class constructor, okay. It's always associated with the classes and objects. Next, we saw how to invoke the current class method using the this keyword. Here also we saw that it is not mandatory. Okay, it is not mandatory to use the this keyword if you want to invoke a class method. Okay, you can invoke a class method without using the this keyword also. But if you do not use the this keyword, the compiler itself will add the this keyword at the time of compilation, and then ultimately, by default, the this keyword is added. Okay, just to indicate that the method belongs to the current class, and then the compilation and execution process continues. Even if you don't add, it is fine. It will be added later by the compiler, and even if you add it, it's also the same thing, right? There's no issue with it. There's no problem with it. Next, we look at how to invoke the current class constructor using the this keyword. Okay, so see the this so this is the constructor. So it's written like a constructor only. It's written like a function call only, if you can see, right, with the braces. So the this constructor call can be used to invoke the current class constructor. It is used to reuse the constructor. In other words, it is used for constructor chaining. Constructor chaining means if you want to call. Chaining means what? If you are repeating sorry, if you're repeating the process, okay. So if suppose you have called the constructor and then inside that constructor again you are calling the constructor, that means recursive calls. Okay, you have called the constructor, now you are inside the constructor of that class. Again inside that constructor, if you want to call the same constructor again, then you use the this keyword, sorry, the this constructor. Okay, so calling default constructor from parameters. Next is the example where we will be calling a default constructor from inside the parameterized constructor. Okay, so let me just open it in the notepad. Okay, this is the example. So what are we going to do here is, I'm just copying this. Okay, so it's clear, I think, right? See, we'll be calling the default constructor of the class from inside the parameterized constructor of the same class using the this constructor, okay, or the this function. See, we have two classes. Okay, test this 5, which has the main function, and inside the main function, we will simply call the create the object of this class, and we will be calling the constructor. That's it. Okay, will be, as you can see, A is the class. So here we are creating an object of the class A, and then we are, using the parameterized constructor, we are simply passing a value. So it's clear that it's a parameterized constructor as you are passing some value to the parameter, right? So this is the only thing that will be done inside the main function of the test this 5 class. And inside the class A, we have two methods, two constructors, right? First is the default constructor, and next is the parameterized constructor. Okay, so in the default constructor, we have, a message which will display hello A, and inside the parameterized constructor, what do we have? First, we will call the default constructor. Okay, first we will call the default constructor here. Fine. So because it's a default, because we are calling the default constructor from inside this parameters constructor, so therefore it's empty, as you can see, right? It's empty. We are not passing any value. So we'll simply make a call to the default constructor of the class. This will be called, okay, this constructor will be called, this message will be displayed, hello A. After that, the control comes back to this function, this constructor. Then what do we have in the next line? We have print ln x. That means next we will print the value of x. And what is this x? It is 10. Okay, because at the time of object creation, we are, passing a value 10 to this parameters constructor. So x will be 10. Okay, so let's run and check the program. So can you see? First, when we created the object, okay, we tried to call the parameterized constructor from here as we are passing a value, right? So this 10 will be passed on to x. So now we are inside this constructor, okay, parameterized constructor. But inside the parameterized constructor, what is the first statement? The first statement is nothing but a constructor call to the default constructor of the class. So immediately control will be transferred to this part. Okay, whatever is inside will get displayed, that is hello A. Hello A will get displayed first, and then the control comes back to the parameterized constructor. Okay, next line, what do we have? We simply are printing the value of x. So here for x, what is the value? It's 10, right? So next statement we have 10. Okay, or one more thing you can do is, for to just avoid confusion, So see one more thing that has been, see, what did I do? I just tried to add some sentences, okay, just to show you the path of execution of this program. But what does this say? Here we don't have any syntax error here, okay, but then it's showing one error to us, which is call to the this method must be first statement in the constructor. That means that when you will be calling, okay, using the this method, okay, or the this keyword, it should always be the first statement in your program, okay, it cannot be any intermediate statement, so this cannot be done, okay, so you cannot do this. See, there's no error now. So first you see, first we call the parameterized constructor, then immediately the first statement was the this constructor, right? So the default constructor was called, then the two statements, okay, inside default constructor and hello A has been displayed. Now we are back inside the parameterized constructor, and what do we have inside the parameterized constructor? Just the value of X, okay. So that is what it is, okay. Next, let's go to the next problem. Okay, next, what do we have? It's again the opposite. That means we are now calling the parameterized constructor from the default constructor. So now we'll do the opposite. Okay, same thing. Now we will do the opposite. Okay, so this can be interchanged anyway. We already have a program here. I think it's test 6. Okay. We already have a program. Directly open it. So here that means what the next program will be to call the parameterized constructor from the default constructor. Okay, so so first the object will be created using the default constructor. Okay, then from inside the default constructor we will call the parameterized constructor. Fine. So now we'll do just the opposite. Okay. So see here, we have the both are same, both the methods are same, okay, sorry, both the classes has been kept same, the constructors are also kept same, it's just the opposite now. So when you'll be creating the object, okay, and then you'll be initializing it using the default constructor. So here we are not passing any argument. That means when this statement will be executed, default constructor will be invoked, okay, first. Then after the default constructor is invoked, okay, then what will happen is the first statement is the this, okay, the call to the parameterized constructor. So as now we are calling the parameterized constructor, so therefore you have to pass a value, right? If it is empty, it's a default constructor call, and if it has some values, it is the call to the parameterized constructor. So here we are passing a value 5. So this 5 will be then passed to X, okay, and the value for X will be 5. Okay, value for X will be 5. Then we again get back to the default constructor, and then we have hello A, right? See, inside parameterized constructor, we have x equal to 5. Okay, so though the default constructor was called, but what is the first statement inside the default constructor? It is a call to the parameterized constructor. So therefore, we are inside the parameterized constructor now. So both the statements will be executed. Okay, then the control goes back to the default constructor and the remaining statements in the default constructor gets executed. Okay, is it clear how we invoke current class constructors using this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Next we have another example, the real usage of this constructor call. See, this constructor call should be used to reuse the constructor from the constructor. It maintains the chain between the constructors. That is, it is used for constructor chaining. Let's see the example below that displays the actual use of this constructor. Again, we have already seen the use, okay, how we can, how we can use this for calling the current class constructor, right? We have already seen it. So in one case, we have seen it inside the default constructor, which is calling the parameters constructor, and in the other case, we are calling the default parameters constructor from inside the default constructor. Now we will actually try to see. Okay, now we will try to have the real use. Okay, like what benefits can we have? What benefits can we? Because see, as I said, as it is said here, that here we try to reuse the constructor. So suppose you have already initialized the instance variables using the constructor of the class. Okay, and then now you want to again reuse the same values. Okay, you want to reuse the same values. Okay, or you want to reuse that constructor again inside your program. Okay, in that case you will be using the constructor. So let's understand this with the help of an example. Here we already have a very good example. We'll understand it. See, see here we have two class, right? Class student. Okay, inside class student we have some instance variables like roll number, name, course, fee. Okay, with their data types int, string, and float. Then we have two parameterized constructors here. Okay, we have two parameterized constructor. In the first parameterized constructor, what are we initializing? The roll number, name, and course. Okay, using the first parameterized constructor, what are we initializing? The roll number, name, and course, not the fee. Remember, we are not initializing the fee now. Okay, so the value for fee is empty. We are not providing any value here for fee, right? So we have only taken the parameters for roll number, name, and course. Fine. In the next parameterized constructor, we have all the instance variables. That means roll number, name, course, and fee. Okay. Now, in the next part, we have the method display, which will display the details. Okay. Then we have the class test this 7. Okay, inside which we have the main method. Okay, here we will be creating two student objects S1 and S2. Okay, and then we will be calling the parameters constructors. Okay, accordingly, whichever parameters construct, because we have two parameters constructor in our program. So whichever parameters constructor you call, accordingly, that values you have to provide. So in the first case, we have 3 parameters here. Okay, so accordingly, you have to provide, if you want to call this parameters constructor, you have to provide 3 values. If you want to call this parameters constructor, you have to call 4 values, because depending on the number of arguments that you are using. Okay, accordingly, you will create the objects and you will initialize the objects. Okay, you'll pass on the values. Next, after the objects are initialized, now the last thing is to display the details, okay, for both the objects using the display method. I think that's clear. Now let's understand this. Okay, in the first case, you see we are creating the student object S1, okay, and then we are calling the parameterized constructor and we are passing three values. First is for roll number, next is the name, and next third is the course. So here we have only three arguments. So it's obvious that the first parameterized constructor will be invoked, right? So we are here, we are inside this constructor now, okay? 111, Ankit and Java will be assigned to roll number, name and course, okay? Then once you are inside it, because you see here again, we come back to the first case scenario where, you know, we have class instance variables same as the formal arguments, and therefore because we have ambiguity. Yes, so to remove ambiguity we are using the this keyword. Okay, this is not for this. Here we are not calling the constructor, this is not the constructor call. Okay, this is, we are using the this keyword along with the class instance variables to remove ambiguity, because you can see that the class instance variables and the formal arguments inside the argument list are the same. So to remove ambiguity, we know that we have to use the this keyword with the class instance variables. That is the reason why we're using the this keyword. Okay, we are not calling constructor here. So, so this value will be passed to this constructor accordingly. Okay, those values will be assigned to roll number, name and course for student S1. Okay, next, again, you come back to the main function. Next, what do we have? We are creating the student S2. Okay, we are creating the student S2 object. Then we are calling the parameterized constructor with 4 arguments. That means now we are calling the next parameterized constructor here. Okay, with 4 arguments, which is roll number, name, course, and fee. Now inside, once you come inside this constructor, what do you see? What is the first statement we are doing? We are not again, you know, writing assignment statements like this. We're not writing these 3 statements here. Instead, you know, we have skipped these 3 statements. We have replaced these 3 statements using the this keyword. How? You see, by reusing the constructor. Okay, we are reusing the constructor. Okay, we are reusing the third constructor. That means when you are inside this, okay, when these values will be passed, okay, when that means when this second parameterized constructor will be called, you are inside here. Now what is the first statement? It is a call to the first parameterized constructor. So now from inside the second parameterized constructor, we are calling the first parameterized constructor. Okay, so these values like 112, Sumit and Java. Okay, so 112, Sumit and Java. So these values will be passed on to this. Okay, then 112, Sumit and Java will be assigned to roll number, name and course. Okay, and then we come back to this parameters constructor. What is the next statement here? We have fee, right? So whatever fee, 60,000. Okay, so whatever fee value has been passed for fee, that will be now assigned to this class instance fee. Okay, so here we have only one assignment statement for the fee. Okay, the rest of the assignment statements are already written in the first parameters constructor. So if you have already done the work, why do we have to again write the same things inside here? So instead of writing those, right, instead of writing the 3 statements here, instead of writing, you know, this for roll number, name and course, because see 112, Sumit and Java and 6,000 will be passed on to this roll number, name, course and fee. Yes, for fee we have the assignment statement, so 6,000 will be assigned to fee. Then 112, Sumit and Java. Okay, so instead of writing again these 3 assignment statements, we have already written it here, so we need not write it here. So what we will do is we will simply make a call to the first parameterized constructor, because it is already assigning the values for the first 3 instance variables, right? So we will simply call the first constructor and we will pass on the values for roll number, name and course which we got from here. Okay, that means 112, Sumit and Java will be now passed on by this to the first parameterized constructor. And then accordingly, those values will be assigned and it will be handed over back to the second parameterized constructor. So now our values, roll number, name, and course are assigned. Okay, we are only left with fee. So the last thing will be to assign the value for fee, which is 6,000. Okay, so inside object S1, we have initialized the 3 instance variables, roll number, name, course, and for S2, we have initialized all the 4. Okay, and then we will simply display the values, because here we are simply initializing, we are simply reading the values. We have to display them. So we'll again call the display method from the main method. Okay. So can you see for S1, right? For S1, what do we have? 111 Ankit and Java, 111 Ankit and Java. And for the value of fee, we have 00. Why 0? Because we did not initialize the fee here. We did not send any value for the fee, right? It will be empty. So by default, it will be 00. It has taken a default value, right? Which is 0.0. In the next student object S2, we are providing a value 6,000. So it will be 6,000, and whatever values we have sent for the remaining 3, okay, accordingly it will be assigned. Have you understood? Please everyone respond. We are done with the this keyword. Next we'll be starting with method overloading tomorrow. So we are done with the this keyword now. We have seen how we use the this keyword to invoke the class methods, class constructors, and class instance variables. Right? We have seen enough of examples. So now I would want to ask you if you have any doubt with any of these examples or cases. Please let me know.
No doubt, ma'am.
You understood? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So after tomorrow, see, I have the class note already ready. Okay. But the thing is, here we also have the method overloading part. Okay. So once we are done with the method overloading part, together I will send all the notes. Okay. Method overloading, constructor overloading. একেলগে মই গোটেইখিনি দি দিম ঠিক আছে এই গোটেই মেটেৰিয়েলটো along with the programs. Oh, আচ্ছা নালাগে দে, this is a too lengthy material. Okay, I'll share the notes for today's NES-based class together with the programs, okay, by evening, okay, so that you can go through it and practice. I hope it's not,
Okay,
I hope it's clear. You don't have any doubt, right? সদায়তো কোৱাই বাৰু
Yes,
yes
ma'am.
ma'am, yes ma'am, পাছতহে ভাইবাত চব ওলাই আৰু তোমালোকৰ